Okay, the HS900. So this is an interesting model range. This was in 1994, I think, or even 1995 even. This was this is the HS900. There was also an HS950, and they came after the HS1000. These had basically still a K mechanism in it, like the HS1000, but these had redesigned head drums. These were the first VXP model head drums that Panasonic had in their recorders back then. And these don't seem to be very reliable. I guess most of them are just fine, but in some cases, VCRs with a lot of hours on them would spew out the H05 message on the screen, which means that the head drum isn't spinning properly. It doesn't even have to mean that it's stuck and it's just a simple thing of breaking it loose, but if you get the H05, you're out of luck with a VXP head drum. I looked at it and I wouldn't know how to take this off and put it back on without completely destroying the head drum. Then we have the NV HD700. This is the little brother of the HS1000. This is a VHS machine, not SVHS. This is an SQPB, so it will play back SVHS in VHS quality. VCR, and it does have the editing computer and everything. It lacks the TBC though. So this is an interesting VHS machine. It's the best VHS machine I have here from Panasonic. It's really nice. I do actually think that the top of the line VHS machines do deliver a better VHS picture than the SVHS equivalents did. When I compare this unit's VHS output against the HS1000's, I think it's a lot better, just because it was more important, because VHS was its native format. Down here we have a Metz. This is an HS1000 rebadge, and it's pretty dusty because I haven't used it in a while. It's I actually lent this one from a good friend of mine, and as well as the FS90 below it, which is actually working. This one was given to me with the order for me to look over it and see if it produces a usable image, because it has been glitching a little bit, but I could not reproduce that at all until now. So probably I won't even be doing anything to it, and just I will probably just be giving it back like I got it. And the FS90 here, I want to use that as a testing device for when I repair my FS90, so I can measure and hopefully not replace every single capacitor in the deck, because there are a lot of capacitors in these early 90s Panasonics. On to more pleasant machines. These two Philips. The same friend that lent me these two things trash picked this beautiful VHS Philips VR838 for me. I really love the look of this thing, with this almost glass looking door. I think this actually is glass. Anyway, it has an LCD display, very uncommon, and it's just overall a Philips. It's so weird in using it. You can't turn it on with the standby button. It's only standby. It's not standby/on. You turn it on by pressing stop. These are just European VHS, SQPB VHS, by the way, even. I don't know if this is visible, but this thing can do SQPB, so it will play SVHS. And I loved this thing so much when I saw it. I had never seen it up until then, that I went on eBay and bought the Super VHS version of it for 100 euros the same day, just because I wanted to have the nice SVHS model of that, because this is just... I think this is still 80s SVHS, so this is a really early machine for the format. And it's really nice. I really like these. Okay, let's do this bottom to top this time because I'm sitting very comfortably right now. On the bottom here we have a BTS BCB65, which is a rebadge of the Sony BVW65. This is a Betacam SP player, the top of the line one with DTF and a TBC. There are the controls for the TBC. This is a broadcast machine, obviously, so it's this is the one that's properly working. Above it is a BVW70P by Sony themselves, and this thing is in sad shape. The jog shuttle is dead. It's not dead, but some plastic is broken in it. It's not really usable. It has really weird genlock issues, so the picture keeps rolling on some inputs and some devices. Sometimes it works just fine. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. And there are just too many issues with it. I will not be restoring that. I just have it here because it does record. That's the only thing it does reliably. And if I want to play back Betacam SP, I use the BTS. But this thing is probably just gonna be used as a Sparts good device for when I get a BVW75P, the model I actually want for Beta SP. Then we have the main VCR here. Why is it the main VCR? Because it's the only one that's actually permanently plugged in. The reason for this is that it will output its picture on both of its SCART jacks, meaning these two SCART jacks are basically equivalent. On the first one I have my main TV, the 50-inch plasma, connected, and on the other is the Trinitron. Not necessarily for watching like pre-recorded VHS cassettes, but more for the inputs, because the Trinitron is in a position where I can watch it perfectly from my bed, where the plasma absolutely isn't. And so I actually use this mini HDMI to AV converter. These things are actually surprisingly not that bad. And I just plug in my AMD Ryzen based computer to as a composite output into this VCR. Just watch it like that. Just I don't even know. This computer also has a Hauppauge WinTV Impact VCBE PCI Express S-Video and composite capture card with a connection chipset. It's pretty good. I can get full 50 FPS deinterlaced content out of it. It's actually my standard machine for digitizing. Okay, the HS830. Anything special about it? It uses a more advanced VXP head drum. This is the same range as on the HS900, but this one I prefer it because this is the newer type. The Z mechanism is in there, and all those head drums basically had the same motor, and these seem to be pretty reliable. So HS830 is a nice platform. It has a really good head in it. The VXP heads are excellent. The Panasonic VXP heads, they do a really great job when playing back. So I don't even mind that this thing doesn't have a TBC. Both TVs work perfectly with it. No shaking image or anything. It even captures well without a TBC. So this is probably my coolest VCR. This is the Sony DVW500P. This is a digital Betacam VCR, the top of the line model. That's not exactly true. There was a DVW-A500P that was able to play back Betacam SP, which this can't do, but I have my BTS down there for that. It's a really fun tape format to tinker around with, especially if you're used to this really lower standard devices. These are just all consumer devices, prosumer for the Panasonics. But the picture that this thing has, this is it does have 442 color compression, but it's the best PAL image I can produce, basically. That's on there. These cassettes, by the way, are recorded and played back at 90 megabits per second, which is kind of impressive even today. On the top there I have the most expensive VCR I ever bought. This is the Sony SLH950 Super Beta Hi-Fi VCR. This is the best PAL Betamax machine that there was. I did get it with, I think, 13 Pro X tapes. We can have a look at one later. With the manual, with the remote, it was just all there, perfectly working. Had to do nothing with it except desoldering the nickel cadmium backup battery there's for the clock, because this can just leak and destroy the board it's soldered onto. It's always good to keep these out of precious devices. Up there we have the only working HS1000, besides this Met, but I don't own this, that I've ever owned. This is a machine that didn't have many hours on it in the first place, and this is the problem with these, because in Germany these are very common, and they were used to death. They were just... The German ones that I've found so far, they have just so many hours on them. The gears are disintegrating in them, and I'm not only talking about that little pulley on the now I would have to now I would need to have the English words for it. Anyway, there are plastic parts breaking in these things. These are pretty much a pain in the ass, except you find one that's in really good condition like I did. It even has a really nice and bright VFD on it. This is also a dead giveaway for a high-hour set. If you encounter an HS1000, you plug it in, and you can't even see the time in something like bare daylight. You should be able to make out the time if the VFD was facing plain daylight. If you cannot make out the clock, don't get the machine, because it's probably too far gone. Then we have the FS200. This is a machine that I have had rather good experience with. These are pretty reliable. The VEH0467 head drum is in these, I think. I have never had an issue with one of them. Then we have the Samsung. This is a Samsung SV5000W. I think. Yes. There is the model number. Imagine you take your average Samsung Hi-Fi VCR from around 2000 from every region of the world, putting it in one thing with the capabilities of every single one of them, and adding two digital multi-format format converters in it. It's really good. You could technically record an NTSC signal to a CCAM cassette and output the monitor while recording over PAL. You can really play around with all the different formats, and it will play every pre-recorded tape from every region without any problems on any TV. In most cases, I can actually just have it play through with CCAM and NTSC and everything, because the newer TV I use with it, the Plasma from Panasonic, can absolutely decode the different region formats. So I just use it as a multi-format device at most times, but I can convert it. So this is especially nice if you can only capture in PAL, but you want to capture an NTSC cassette. Because if you put an NTSC cassette in a PAL VCR and hook it up to a capturing device, the capturing device needs to be able to detect NTSC 4.43, which is the format that PAL VCRs use to play NTSC. You will not get the NTSC or NTSC 3.58 signal that is native, that the capture device would probably understand. So digitizing NTSC in the PAL region on VHS is kind of a it's kind of a pain, but with one of these you can do whatever you want. This thing has been so practical so many times. So I can really recommend getting one of these if you like to tinker around with old video formats. And on the top, because it's a top loader, is my beautiful Philips VR2340, a fully working, nice looking Video 2000 machine. This is probably one of the VCRs I'm most proud of, because these are pretty rare, and it's always nice to have one there if you want to watch old TV from the early 90s in most cases. Most of the Video 2000 machines were thrown out in the early 90s. These are probably the most common last recordings to V2000 tapes. Looking behind the TV, we have more cassettes to the bottom. Down they go. And more cassettes. And there are some nice and new ones. So, always like the packaging of tapes. This one's out of the package, but still looks rather nice. I also have some brand new Betamax cassettes. Also a Konica. These look cool. So I think that'll pretty much wrap it up. Oh, wait, I found something here. These are my remotes, and it looks like one of them fell out. I do have a lot of remotes laying around here. Okay. So I guess that's about it. If you see anything that sparks your interest and you want to see more of, just write in the comments. I don't have too much to do right now, so I could definitely squeeze in just filming using some of these devices. Anyway, thanks for watching.